Hello, my name is Skallep from Stuff with Skallep, and today I have taken over Casual Jerry's YouTube channel to present you with a joint collab of a documentary on the LSWR Adams Radial. I hope you enjoy. In my opinion, the Adams Radial must be one of the most interesting and favorite steam engines I have ever found when I got into the hobby of steam locomotives, British ones in particular. There's always been something that was special to me, and so I dug deep in to find all the information I could about the engine to share with you about the LSWR 415 Adams Radial. The Adams Radial is a steam locomotive of a 442T wheel arrangement, with the trailing wheels forming the basis of its radial tank macleod. It was designed by William Adams and introduced in 1882 for service on the London and South Western Railway, one of the first railways to make suburban routes and use radial axles on tank engines. Originally, the Adams was the result of the work made to replace the stopgap 46 class on suburban services around London, which were aging and starting to fall behind in the workload. So from 1882 to 1885, the engines were produced by the companies of Stevenson and Co. Dubs and Co., Nelson and Cohen, Bayer, Peacock and Company. They were made with the bogies using radial axles as an axle designed to move laterally along the arc of a circle. When these engines rolled out of the shops, they were sent to work on the London suburban network, doing fairly well for their time, but despite being well received and serviced by locomotive crews, the 415's tenure on the London services was relatively short-lived. This was especially true with the introduction of the Adams T1 class of 044 tanks, displacing some of the class from the London area. However, it was not until the introduction of Drummond's M7 class 044 tanks and electrification of the suburban railway network that the class was generally removed from the London section of the LSWR to rural branch duties from 1895. Despite this, in 1903, the inextricable link was made between the class and the severely curved Lime Regis branch. Unsuccessful trials were carried out with the Stradley Terriers and the Adams 02 class. However, the trailing axle modified, the flexible 0415 class tanks proved to be highly suited to the operating conditions of that line. As a result, two were allocated to the Exmouth Junction shed for administered to the Lime's Regis service, joined in 1946 by a third retrieved from the East Kent Railway. The class also saw service during the First World War, which effectively extended their work lives until 38, were withdrawn in 1921. Many of the class became surplus to requirements during later years of the war. Several of the class were utilized in Scotland, where the Highland Railway was experiencing a locomotive shortage. In September 1917, number 0488 was sold to the Ministry of Munitions, and then worked at Redham Dock near Sittingbourne, either as a unsuitable dock shunter or more likely on staff trains. It was purchased from the Ministry of Munitions Disposal Liquidation Commission in March 1923 for £375 by Colonel Holman F. Stevens for use on the East Kent Light Railway, a system serving the coalfield of East Kent, and was delivered to Shepherd's Well on the 13th of April 1923. As a purely passenger engine, the new arrival was suited to the East Kent Light Railway's primarily industrial needs, and it was only used when absolutely necessary, and then largely on coal trains, taking 14 wagons on the Tilmanston shuttle. Latterly, it seems to have worked only about a month, and was last used on May 29th, 1943. But just because the engines were good, use did not mean they did not have the cleanest crash record. As on Monday 16th, in 1888, a passenger train number 486 was entering Hampton Wick Station on the London and South Western Railway when it was hit by a light engine, in which the engine 484 had been sent on the wrong line by the signalman. The accident caused the death of the driver, fireman, and 2 passengers. In the report from the Board of Trade, they said, in this case, a bogie tank engine number 484 was on its way from Kingston Junction to Twickenham. Started from the former place upon the wrong line about 11:55 p.m. and came into collision at the west end of Hampton Wick Station at about 11:56 p.m. with the engine of the 10:50 p.m. down passenger train from Waterloo to Kingston, consisting of bogie tank engine number 486, running tank first, guard S van 1/3, 2 composite, 1 first class, 4 composite, and 1 third class carriages, guards van, 2 second class carriages, and a horse box, a total of 14 vehicles, all except the horse box fitted with the automatic vacuum brake, which had started from Waterloo 5 minutes late, and having lost time owing to the heavy traffic, it was 15 minutes late in approaching Hampton Wick, where it was about to stop. Although this train was running very slowly, the collision was a very violent one, and was most disastrous in its consequences. The light engine was embedded under the water tank, coal bunker, and footplate of the engine of the passenger train, with both the leading bogie wheels and the driving wheels off the rails. On the train engine, which was running bunker in front, the coal bunker was telescoped into the smoke box of the engine. The radial wheels, which had been leading the wheels, were driven under the next pair of wheels, and all the brake connections, spring hangers, brackets, and belonging to those wheels were broken away. This incident was a horrific one, but was not the fault of the engine's design, but more on the signalman's fault, like explained. By 1923, with the takeover of the Big Four, the Southern Railway took over the LSWR and its remaining 30 Adams radial tanks. The continued electrification and subsequent intensification of timetables meant that the remaining 2 members of the class, still in service, numbers 0125 and 0520, were retired in 1929. The intention was to replace the class on the Lyme Regis branch with 2 ex-London Brighton South Coast Railway D1 class tanks, though these proved highly unsatisfactory. This led to the decision to recommission and rebuild 125 and 520 at Eastleigh Works, where they were outshopped as 3125 and 3520. In 1946, the Southern Railway needed a 3rd radial tank for the Lyme Regis branch to cover the locomotive unavailability, and found 0488, East Kent Light Railway number 5, out of use, but intact. In March 1946, the Southern Railway purchased it for a decent price of £120. It was extensively overhauled for service at Eastleigh, where it received its updated number 3488. These 3 locomotives continued on the Lyme Regis branch after nationalism, due to all the lack of better motive power to cope with the curve restrictions in place on the line. But by 1958, all 3 were showing their age, and the end finally came in 1961. Modifications were undertaken on the track work to enable the IVIT 262 tanks to be passed for use on the line. This resulted in numbers 30582 and 30584 being withdrawn and sadly scrapped. Steam on the branch was, however, short-lived after the demise of the 415 class, and the IVIT tanks were soon replaced by diesel rail cars. The branch was closed under the Betching cuts in 1965. Number 30582 was the subject of a preservation attempt by the Kent and East Sussex Railway, though. However, The final example, 30583, was purchased by the Bluebell Railway, chosen because of the 3 it was only retaining the original pattern of the boiler. After arriving at the line under its own steam, it performed sterling work in 2 different LSWR guises, and in BR livery up until 1990. At present, it is displayed as a static exhibit and is currently waiting overhaul, probably involving replacement of the boiler barrel, before it is possible for it to steam again. So now we come to the end of my short documentary collab with Casual Jerry on my video on the Adams Radial. I hope everybody watching this enjoyed, and stay safe and stay soft.